Hello and good morning.
Good
On
morning,
the
good
US.
afternoon. Good afternoon in Denmark.
Good afternoon. So your speaker is a little weird.
My speaker
Thomas.
is weird. Is this better now?
No, it seems like you don't have bandwidth enough.
Huh.
That's sort of a little muffled. But while you are working on the sound, welcome to everyone who decided to join us this afternoon. And in order of good sake, I obviously need to tell you that this will be recorded, so you can go online afterwards and replay our session here today and rehear some of our advice and comments on today's topic. So my name is Charlotte Nytoft. I live and work in Denmark, where I help Danish businesses establish themselves on the US market. And Thomas, you're on the West Coast.
I'm your counterpart on the other coast of the other continent. I am based in Los Angeles. I work with Danish companies coming into the US, companies from the other Nordic countries as well, and help them with engaging in the US market. I have a strong focus in environmental sustainability, but work with companies in other industries as well.
Fantastic, sounds good. There is something weird on your mic though, but let's see if anyone can give us a comment if it's also something that is disturbing out to our audience, or maybe it's just on my end that things are a little rusty in your voice, so to speak. So
I hear it here. Let me try to. I'm going to log out and I'll be right back in.
Okay, fantastic. Good. But good to see so many of you have taken the time. I feel that August, or the end of August here, is off to a very great start. Super busy, and definitely we feel that the pent up demand for meetings and events and so on is really going to kick in here by this week and definitely next week. It seems like everything is lining up on events that hasn't been able to be conducted the past year or so. But anyway, let's get started. And Thomas, would you also turn on your camera so we can see your
see my beautiful face? Is the audio better?
Now the audio is still a little weird though, but let's see if we can skip over that and continue. So
Okay.
so yeah.
And see if you can turn on my camera, because for some reason it's blocked on my.
It's okay. Let it turn on the camera. You should be. There we go. Good.
There we go.
Fantastic.
We're live.
We're live. We're live.
And is the audio any better at all?
No, it's a little bit the same, you know. It's a little weird, but and there was also the feedback from the audience that you sound this metallic. But in any way, let's see if we can get started. And today's topic, we over the summer when Thomas and I discussed what theme is up next. I had a situation with one of my customers that were contacted by Walmart. This call that everybody's waiting for, and as soon as it is really live there, and you have Walmart on the other end, what are you actually supposed to answer, and what is a good answer, and how do you avoid being starstruck and maybe making a too wrong of a move for your business. So we decided to let that be our theme for today. And as usual, we share our experience for about half an hour, and then if somebody have any answers or questions, then please put them in the chat or open up for discussions later. So Thomas, what have you experienced being the biggest hurdle when people have that fantastic long desired call from one of the big guys, Walmart, or some of the other guys out there?
Well, like you said, being starstruck, deer in the headlights, and any other simile like that, it's like, oh my God, this is the fantastic thing has finally happened. We're going to be rich. And, I say, take it as a compliment because obviously somebody's found you and it's one of the big guys. And that's great. But then you need to stop and think that you really need to take a breath, maybe two breaths even, and say, well, are we really a good fit for this company? And there are many reasons why you could be a fit and many reasons why you would not be a good fit. I think in our discussion, if I remember correctly, Walmart's annual revenue is about 3.5 times the gross national product of Denmark. They have about 1.8 million employees. And the target market for Walmart in particular is low cost mass market. And I mean, even just the real estate footprint of one of their stores is so enormous. And the number of different items that they have in one store is so huge that you really have to think, well, do my products fit into their product assortment? Are they going to get the type of attention that I want? And yes, they are the world's largest retailer, but will that flow to my bottom line? Will our products be sold in that volume that I imagine they could be with the type of footprint that Walmart had? And often the answer is no.
Mm. Yeah, and also the situation is the fact that you might actually, you can say, jeopardize your, because there's the multiple layers of challenges and obviously also opportunities on the other side when going into negotiations with big box retailers like Walmart. Now we just use Walmart as the name for all the big retailers out there. Because but especially Walmart has this, you can say, the situation that you might actually cut yourself out from other more fitting retailers for your business. So what is your experience on that when people get the call, for instance, Nordstrom's or one of the finer retailers in the market, and what is their comment when they hear that your products is sold at Walmart?
They say, well, congratulations, I hope you're doing well with Walmart, and best wishes to you, thank you for your call, and that's it. That's the end of the conversation, because retailers like Nordstrom or another high-end retailer, whether it's for Nordstrom, often clothing or personal goods. But if you're looking at sporting goods, for instance, Dick's Sporting Goods or REI or another large sporting goods retailer would not carry the same brands as Walmart. So either your company would then have to have a special sort of off brand, typically, which would also have to be cheaper with lower margins for you, that you would sell through Walmart, and then you would have a different brand that was your higher end brand. And if that's your setup, maybe Walmart's for you. But the thing holds true with other large retailers, where I've had a situation with a Danish company that wanted to do business with Whole Foods. And Whole Foods, of course, famously has been acquired by Amazon for $16 billion. And they're a very large, really high-end food retailer, and here in the US referred to as Whole Paycheck because it's very expensive. They have some really nice stuff. But the process of getting onboarded with them, and that there are some parallels with Walmart, is the process of getting onboarded with Whole Foods, the process of doing business with Walmart in some respects are similar in that the demands are voluminous. The onboarding process with Whole Foods that we were looking at was a 7-month onboarding process. And the package that you would have to deliver, it wasn't merely, you couldn't just show up and say, hey, we have this great Danish butter. It's the best butter in the world, according to the Financial Times. You should carry it in your stores. Great. Now tell us how much you're going to pay for how much space you want on the shelf. Where do you want to be on the shelf? how much are you going to participate in marketing, what's your refund policy, all of these things. And the package was really big. And I think you have some experiences with Walmart where in terms of logistics and shipping and other things where you run into some conflict with internal rules in Walmart that you don't know about before you start doing business there.
Yeah, and you're right. Whenever you have chewed yourself through this humongous deliver instructions and deliver policies and packing policies, and you may have set up a system within your business to actually try to accommodate all these. There you really need to understand, are your suppliers capable of actually adopting some of these instructions, because you obviously can't repackage everything as soon as it comes to Denmark. You need to have it packaged already accordingly to all these various instructions at your sub-suppliers. And I have had the chance of working with one of the similar large retailers in Europe, and I can see just that the trend is the same. And if you don't match all these criteria and all these requirements from these big box stores like Walmart, then you're simply deducted in your price, what you're getting paid by Walmart, accordingly to the laundry list of fees. That is, if the product number is too small of a font printed on the packaging, if the packaging is not the plastic quality that is agreed upon, if the stickers on the box is 2 centimeters too narrow to the corner, or if the barcode is not readable, or if, then you actually are getting hammered by a tiny percentage or a nominal fee. But regardless, if that can eat up your entire margin, trying just to get the products on the shelf, and let alone the delivery. Sometimes the delivery needs to be at a certain time frame, a very narrow time frame. You maybe have half an hour plus minus to actually deliver your goods to whatever numbers of containers or less container loads to a central warehouse. And if you don't show up within that time frame, the whole marketing channel is blown up, basically, because that particular product was scheduled to be on a marketing promotion at a certain time. And if they're so finite tuned, the whole warehouse setup and the marketing department, that if you're not there at that particular time, then everything blows, and you can just take your goods back home again and sell them to somebody else if you're lucky, because you missed that time slot where this finite clockwork was scheduled to actually run your products. And obviously also you can say the more classic is, if you most likely, if you get into some of these big box stores, they will try you in a selected number of stores before they actually launch out in every single store in for instance, United States. But still, you might have your test in 30 stores. And that alone obviously can be a maybe 20 containers or 2 million Danish kroner worth of goods in just the first trial order, and that can really put a strain on your financials. So you actually have difficulties just producing for that first trial order. So there you really need to figure out, are you able to set up that business in your business to actually service a very demanding customer.
Yeah, and then of course on the other hand, if your company is ready for this, or if you can be ready for this, if you're prepared to take the leap, obviously, a call from one of a large customer like Walmart or Amazon, or although Amazon's business model is significantly different, of course, but Whole Foods, or even some of the large retailers that those of us who are more intimately familiar with the US might be better familiar with. that are they could be regional retailers. They may not be nationwide retailers, but that still makes them a really, really large retailer. Once you get the call from them, if you are ready for that, and if you do have the capabilities needed and can roll out a dedicated team, a dedicated logistics operation for that, because often that's required. Well, obviously, then it's cautiously timed for celebration, because this could certainly be a very big deal. But of course, in the case of Walmart, what we see is they are a large volume, low cost, low margin business, and much like low margin businesses in Europe on a smaller scale, they push their suppliers to give them even lower prices than they've said. They've said, oh, well, you're going to sell us at this price. So what if we buy, we did a test with 20 containers for this region. What if we buy 200 containers? What if we buy 500 containers? Then what? Because they can, with a $550 billion annual revenue, and with 1.8 million employees, they have massive warehouses, and they have the capacity to say, okay, well, we really like this product. We think we're going to move a lot of it. We did really well in these 20 or 30 stores. Now we're going to send it out to 1,000 stores. And so we'll just, it's just a matter of scaling up, 30 times 30 stores, and you were doing 20 containers to those 30 stores. That's 600 containers now all of a sudden. And maybe they think they can sell even more. So there are certainly opportunities. And I think one of the things, being from Jutland myself, but also the saying in the US is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Although, of course, I think elephants are protected and you shouldn't be eating elephants, but never mind about that. But the point is, dealing with a large market like the US, or dealing with a large, a huge customer is doing it one step at a time, but still you want to look ahead. And if you've been fortunate enough to start with smaller customers or regional customers, and you then get the call from Walmart, you are probably better prepared in just doing business in the US in general. And your setup in the US in general is better, and you're better able to take advantage of the opportunity when it comes calling.
Yeah, that's right. That's very good points. One of the other things I have noticed, if you talk about, you can say more sort of from a, product perspective, sometimes if you get the call from one of the big guys, if you can just, not particular Walmart, but one of the big guys, and because usually Danish products and Danish businesses, we are not really geared to the low margin, massive, high volume business. We're more niche products and more higher in, sort of in general. And I think also if you have some of the bigger players give you a call, for instance, within the retail or within business to business as well, and there you might, as we talked about in the beginning, you might get starstruck. You might say, wow, that's really a huge opportunity for our business. And you maybe you don't dare actually putting up any, you can say, requirements, because you are a little afraid of this big customer actually running away from you before you even have had the chance to negotiate with them. But if sometimes your product is a part of a, you can say, a solution or a product portfolio, and if they start nitpicking and they say, yeah, we just want this product, and then can we negotiate on this particular product, and then your entire story falls apart. Your solution package is actually not really can't stand alone with one product out of your product portfolio. So you really also need to be super careful about allowing the big guys, the buyers from some of the big guys, actually to cherry pick in your product portfolio, so it actually will fit their procurement budget better, or what the situation may be. So really be careful about not letting them, because you're starstruck, because you really want to do business with them, allow them to cherry pick in your product portfolio. If you have created a story, if you have created a solution, if you have created a portfolio of products that go well together, then it should stay that way. Because taking out one particular product, then you just becomes, say nobody. You don't have your story. There's not this magic around your product any longer, because it was taken out of a context, and then your product might be, not really on its own to actually stand the competition against other competing products.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have the opportunity to develop a conversation with a customer that you really want to engage with. Like you said, I think one of the really important things is telling the story that you want to tell with your brand. And we were talking about Nordstrom, and I used to work in the fashion industry, and so in clothing, you might have as one of the things in a segment of your line, you might have some cool t-shirts, and Nordstrom might come to you and say, hey, we really like your t-shirts. We'd like to buy these 3 t-shirts, and we'd like to buy, an assortment for 5 different stores. We'd like to buy maybe a few thousand t-shirts. Now what ends up happening isn't so much, it's not just that, oh, you got an order from Nordstrom, but you have to see like what comes next. Well, the next thing is they're going to replenish your t-shirt order. And maybe the senior buyer that you're talking to is going to hand this off to a junior buyer, because like, okay, well, the t-shirt sold fine, let's buy some more of those. But since you're not a t-shirt brand, and those are an accent item for your entire line, you don't have the opportunity to be on display at Nordstrom stores and telling the story of this particular type of individual who you're trying to communicate with, that you feel like you've really designed your entire collection for. And the thing is to approach this from a perspective where you say like, well, we're not just selling a product, but we're selling a story, and we're selling a more complete story. We're selling to the whole person, not just to a portion of the person. And we believe that Nordstrom would benefit significantly from showing, so buy fewer t-shirts, but buy some of the other things that go around it, because we think the story, we have this particular customer in mind. And it may seem scary, but you've got to come to the US prepared to educate buyers a little bit and say, listen, we're a different brand. You don't know us. We haven't done business before. And if we don't do business today, that's fine. Come back to us for our next collection. And we'll keep telling you, in the meantime, we'll keep telling you what it is that we're trying to do with our line of, in this case, clothing, but some other product as well. Will help identify how this customer is a good customer for Nordstrom to engage with. And then maybe next collection that comes out, you'll see what it is that we're trying to do, and you'll get a feel for it, and you'll be interested in buying more from us. But we're not interested in being a t-shirt brand where our t-shirts are on a rack with loads of other t-shirts from a bunch of other companies that just sort of now are anonymous within your portfolio.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that is a super good point. Yeah, I was just having something that I wanted to segue on that. I just escaped my.
You have too many good thoughts at the same
time.
I
have too many good thoughts.
Clearly that's what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a hard thing to do, to sort of to feel like you're standing up and you're saying no, but you're not turning people away. But I wrote a piece for Kongressen earlier this year, or I don't even remember, sometime during the pandemic, and I was talking about business dating. And the way that I see the developing relationship is is a bit like businesses who are dating. And if you're at a trade show or however you got the connection to this buyer of your product, whether it's Walmart or Nordstrom or some other large buyer, if it's your first meeting, it's if you typically at least don't ask the person that you're on a date with to get married on your first date. But you got to get to know each other, and it's okay to tell this person, this business person that you're meeting with, it's okay to tell them, well, thank you for your interest, but we're interested in more. We want to talk to you about more than just picking up a small portion of what it is that we do. We have a story to tell. We have a customer in mind, and we believe both we and you serve this customer, and that we serve this customer better by showing off more than, in this example, just our t-shirts.
Yeah.
And also no, go ahead.
Yeah, and also one of the things that especially Danish businesses are, you would say, surprised about is sort of the level of returns. If you're asked, is goods sold, is that then sold to the business? Because on page 238 in whatever stack of paper you get and contract you receive from these big corporations, there will always be a clause, or most likely always be a clause where they can actually return everything at season end, or if they decide at any given time that they want to pull this product from the shelves that you have purchased, the 50 centimeters of shelf space. But at any given time, they can basically return everything to you if they decide, no, we don't want to do this anymore. And also just you can say in regular returns, Americans are very, very spoiled consumers, and they return for God knows which reasons. And there is a huge gap between, you can say, Danish consumer behavior and American consumer behavior.
Yes.
And Danes obviously oftentimes gets really surprised to see the amount of products that they're actually receiving back again, that are returned to them, which cannot be restocked. A sold product is basically a product that is, you can say, wasted if it's not sold, because you can't resell it again, you can't repack it, and you basically can't. It will not make any sense to have somebody in a warehouse somewhere to actually see if they can restock the products, because that will most likely not be the case, because again the American consumer is very very spoiled when it comes to return. So that is also something that you really need to understand. So when I sell this to you, dear Walmart, dear Nordstrom's, dear Target, or whoever is the retailer, is it actually sold, or how is it on returns? What am I exposed to in my business? What risk am I exposed to? And what is your typical return rates on these types of products? What do you see as usual? Because again, if just to stay in the t-shirt example, Americans may have a different way of carrying their clothing, and therefore the sizes may not be correct, even though you have really tried to translate the size to American sizes, but still it doesn't fit the American consumer, and that goes as well for you can say not just now it's becoming an apparel theme, but also for other types of products, that it doesn't really fit the American consumer. So you really need to understand, is your product really meant for the US consumer, regardless if the buyer from that particular retail may convince you that your product is super for their type of customers, but you really need to have your own opinion about the type of customers for whom your product brings value, if that is the customer that ultimately walks through the doors of whatever retailer you are talking with. Because otherwise you both are losing. But unfortunately, Danish businesses are the one that have most at stake, because for
Yes.
Walmart's budgets or Targets or Nordstrom's or whoever, that's just a not even a drop in the bucket. There it's not even a drop. I mean, it's just such this insignificant relationship for those guys, but for the business in Denmark, it will be a significant investment to actually drive the business. So
yeah.
So,
yeah, and you bring up a good point also. I mean, not to get in too much into nitty-gritty details, but you bring up a good point about sizes, because sizes are very different. But just to make everything more complicated, of course, we don't use the metric system here, but there are two different sizes in terms of inches. There are American inches and imperial inches, and you got to make sure that you use the right measurements to convert your sizes. But those are just one of the many details, and I think what we're talking about here is sort of on just more broad and the higher level. Yeah. But in the higher level, there's enough there that you still need to think about the details. But in the higher level, if you've captured the higher level engagement with these big companies in the US, I'm sure you can work out some of the kinks and the details along the way. But if you're able to capture the attention of a Nordstrom's, for instance, and say, listen, we have this whole brand story, we have this whole persona, we have this whole client that we've successfully engaged with in Europe, and we think they're present in your stores as well, and we'd like to engage with you. And there will be glitches along the way, regardless of how well you prepare. But once you have that higher level engagement with them, you'll have the opportunity to work out the smaller details. But you also bring up a good point, on page 238 of the contract. It's always good. And I mean, perhaps I am a little biased as a US attorney, but it's always good to have a good business attorney, not just an attorney and not just a business attorney, but someone who's good and someone who understands the differences between doing business in Europe and doing business in the US. Doesn't have to be me, obviously, but you and I are obviously have great experience in this and have worked together, but having an advisor who can help you identify a lot of the things that we've talked about here, about some of the legal issues and the ramifications of entering into some of these contracts is also extremely important, of course.
Yes, so you know what risk you're exposing yourself to, weighed up against the opportunities, because that's obviously something of a business decision that you need to do, so that you actually understand the opportunities on one hand, and then at what cost you will be able to actually realize this potential. But with that said, I mean, there is now we're talking more you can say a business to consumer type of avenue, but I also have dealt with and been engaged with a number of you can say B2B suppliers for the sort of the industrial sector. Mm-hmm. And there you basically also have the same. Now we talked about sizes and so on and so forth, but just for the American user that needs to maybe use a machinery for a certain process in whatever industry, then sometimes it's like we're wired in two different ways. I mean, the logic that applies in a Danish brain does not always apply in an American brain, and that's it with the biggest love of all, because it's simply just that we're communicating on from two entirely different angles. So a machinery sold in the United States might need some additional push here, left, right, really with pictograms and everything, to have people understand how they actually need to operate this machinery. Otherwise, they're returning the machinery to the dealer and say, this is not working for our business. And if a T-shirt is a waste to return, then obviously an advanced machinery returned to a dealer, because the user could not figure out how it was intended to be used is obviously a much more devastating occurrence. So yeah,
Yes.
so
Yeah, most
oftentimes
definitely.
oftentimes we are really wired in two different ways in our communication. So yeah.
I like to quote George Bernard Shaw, who said the US and the UK are two countries separated by a common language. Although I heard recently someone was quoting Churchill as having said that, but I think Churchill was also quoting Shaw. But
Okay.
the phrase "I'd like to table the topic," which is kind of an odd from a Danish perspective, in the US means you want to take it off the table and stop talking about it. In the UK, it means you want to put it on the table and start talking about it. And it's at that basic a level. And one thing I've heard over the years many times from Danes is, oh, the Americans are so superficial. I'm like, okay, why are you saying that? Well, I was at the grocery store and this guy was asking me how I was doing, and I was telling him, and then he was asking somebody else. Well, he wasn't really. He's like, yes, he was, because he said, how are you doing? He literally said the words. And I said, well, he's just saying hello. Well, that's just silly. He should just say hello. That's even shorter. But it's at that basic a level where we just communicate from a completely different, just a different corner of the universe.
Yeah, exactly. Like the one who was selling, and I think that could be the closing remarks, the one who was selling conveyor belts for the poultry industry, and they couldn't figure out why they could not sell these very sophisticated, very light constructed conveyor belts. And then somebody at whatever Purdue or wherever it was said, yeah, but you understand, when I need to change a light bulb in the ceiling, I can't stand on these flimsy conveyor belt. It's not built for that. And then the Danish salesman said, you're not supposed to stand on my conveyor belt. That's for poultry being transported. But that's just to see the difference on how we actually
It's funny.
treat our systems and actually work around the tools
Yeah,
and
that's
the machinery we have in our businesses. But
yeah, that's an excellent example.
yeah. But anyway, if anybody has any questions, then feel free to raise your hand or type it in the chat if anyone has a comment or something we have been talking about today, then feel free to do so. And yeah, otherwise, I mean, we are both, Thomas and myself, we are both capable of helping you guys or any companies that you may be in dialogue with on their venture into the United States market, and actually try to not steer them away from Walmart or any of the big guys if that is a desire, but help the companies actually understand the risk they're exposing themselves to, and chewing through this 240 pages contracts that they're being presented with. And also sometimes strategy sometimes is to actually put this time pressure. Now you have access to our vendor portal and we need your signature, your digital signature by tomorrow at noon. And there's 20 different documents, and the Danish businesses have no idea where to start. And that whole time pressure is you can say a good measurement stick that you might need to say, like you said before, yeah, we're not getting married at this point. I mean, we're just starting to see whether we are a good fit and whether your customers might appreciate our products. But
yeah, and I think what you say is exactly spot on. I mean, I think what we've talked about here is all based on our experience, our interactions with other companies. And I think one of the key values, one of the several key values that we bring, but one of them is certainly the ability to ask the right questions quickly. And having had the experience of dealing with large, small, and mid-sized clients in the US, that you can very quickly start standing up your organization with the help of a consultant like you or me.
Yeah, good. All right, it's almost our 40 minutes, and let's see, just another question came in. If you go for Amazon before getting any customers in the US, would that make it harder?
Well, not
No,
not necessarily.
Mm.
You obviously you would incur some costs up front, but getting on Amazon might be a way to test the market. And I think the key is, what we've been talking about, we've sort of been highlighting Nordstrom's versus Walmart as a higher end versus a more mass market large retailer. Is you could still sell high-end goods on Amazon, but be mindful of how you use Amazon. I think Nike has made the conscious decision to not sell on Amazon because of the possibility of fakes, other considerations. So it's not as simple as a yes or no answer, I don't think.
But let me ask you now the question about Amazon, and Thomas just mentioned Kongressen, and for those of you who don't know the online media Kongressen, that's definitely a place to go and to stay updated on what the Kongressen is writing. They are both writing sort of political stuff towards, you can say, getting an understanding of the political landscape in the United States, but also business related stuff. And they actually today had a very interesting write-up about exactly Amazon and what you need to be aware of. But Amazon is interesting. I think there is probably no way around Amazon. What you really need to understand about Amazon in the United States, it's the search engine. Whereas we in Europe are probably more likely to go to Google if we're looking for something. Americans are much more likely to go to Amazon because the Amazon account, the Prime Amazon account, is open anyway. They're buying everything they need on Amazon for their private life. So they are also moving into selling on Amazon or buying on Amazon for their business purposes. So the business to business Amazon is absolutely on a steep rise. So if you're not on Amazon, you're missing out on opportunities. However, you also need to have a similar, because Amazon is as relentless as to requirements for their vendors, like Walmart, like Target, like any of the other big guys. There's no difference there. So if you don't, Amazon is not an easy fix, but it's probably a necessary place to be to drive some business. So an added value is if you have your own brand, create a brand store, because there you are in charge of the image material that is out there. You can upload a bunch of other things that you are not allowed to if you're not a brand. So if you're a brand, you have some added features to be on on Amazon. So
I think one of the benefits of Amazon is that it's easier and cheaper and faster to launch a few products in the US, where I forget what their stocking requirements are in terms of the number of items per item number, but it's typically lower than if you go to, say, and selling into Walmart or Nordstrom or another retailer typically is a much longer process. And you may have the benefit of showing one of those retailers, well, listen, we've been successful with this product already on Amazon. And it, again, I mean, like, the answer is a little bit more complicated than we can probably cover very well here. But there's certainly benefits to it, and you can start seeing reaction from customers. And the other thing, of course, is it's very possible to sell a bunch of stuff through Amazon and a lot of merchandise, but they also have a very aggressive return policy. And a guy that I used to work with bought a lawnmower on Amazon, and it was an electric lawnmower, and he ran over the cord and was very angry and upset about this, and he wanted to return it. And then he goes on Amazon, he can't figure out the way to return it, so he calls them, and he's ready for this big old speech, and he's gonna tell them, And they're like, sir, we don't have a way of returning this online, but just go ahead and keep it. I've issued a refund for you. So the seller of the lawnmower is going to have to refund Amazon the payments, and they're not going to get their lawnmower back. Even if the lawnmower has the power cord cut, I'm sure they could do something with the lawnmower, but they won't get it back and they won't get the money for it.
No, it's simply not worth it. The process is simply too long. So, and then a great example, and I think that could be sort of the closing. And then Thomas and I obviously can decide whether a Amazon theme could be a worth of a Tuesday talk. I think that could obviously be the situation.
Could be.
But for instance, there is a Danish company called the Tumor Tools. They are selling drills of whatever. They have like 12,000 SKUs in their product portfolio. They have like a bazillion amount of different drills. And they're selling like under 1% is dedicated to Amazon of their product portfolio. So they have simply taken a ultra narrow amount of products and actually added to Amazon. And I think that is sort of the lesson. Don't add your entire product portfolio to Amazon. Take the bestseller, the product that you know has less returns, that customers are most satisfied with, what you can produce every day, each day without any mistakes, and the product that goes as hotcakes. So let that be your product on Amazon to start with. It's always easier to scale up than cut back. So if you can make it with your best-selling product, then you might have Amazon might be a good sales channel for you.
Yeah, go for those 5-star reviews.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what you want.
No, that's good advice.
Yeah, super.
Well, thank you again. A pleasure.
Thank you, guys. A pleasure, and I wish you a wonderful day in Los Angeles. I will be wrapping up my day here, and thank you to our listeners, and hope you got a few tips and tricks on working with the big guys.
Thanks for joining us for our conversation today. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.